I made millions and went broke a couple times. I flipped 1,000 houses. 2012, these guys from Blackstone came out and met with me, and they were like, "Hey, we're getting into the single family rental industry. We think buying at auction there's great values out there. You should come work for us. If you don't come to work for us, like we'll put you out of business." I was young, early 20s. I was kind of self-made at that point, and I was like, "You're not going to put me out of business." I thought that I was unstoppable, and in 2012, they put me out of business.
What did they do to put you out of business? Aaron, so first and foremost, I'd like to say thank you for coming by. I know your time is extremely valuable. You got a big old family, right?
I have 4 kids, 16, 14, 13 are my girls, and my boy is 8 years old.
Dude.
Yeah, I got a lot of kids.
How did it feel when you had the boy?
It was really funny because we already had 3 girls, and at that time we decided to have another kid. Like our youngest girl was like 6 or 7, and you're kind of in the home stretch at that point. You're like, you can go on trips, you can like leave them with babysitters. I'm like, do we really want to start again, like with a new baby? And she was like, yeah, we got to try again. We got to go again. But at that point, people are like, do you want a boy or a girl? But I was truly like, I didn't really mind at that point. Cause in one mind, I'm like, hey, if it's a girl, at that time, my whole house was pink.
Yeah.
There's pink castles, pink crowns, pink everything. And I'm like, if we get another girl, like she'll just come right in. It'll be easy.
Yeah.
And if we get a boy, it'll be fun and super new. So but he's my little best friend. He is so much fun, so much energy. Girls and boys are so different.
How so? What's one main variable there?
Somebody told me a long time ago, like, girls are when they're younger, girls are easier.
Yeah.
And then when they're older, they're not. Okay. Like young boys, you just have to keep them alive.
Right. Yeah. Because they're rambunctious.
They jump off trees.
Yeah.
Like they jump off roofs. Like like he's got a broken ankle right now, but like when I go pick him up, when I go pick him up at his school, he'll like be in a tree almost so high up I can't even really figure out where he is. And I'm like, come on, dude. And he's coming down, he's covered in mud, and the little girls don't do that.
No, they're not.
All the little girls are lined up waiting for their parents, and the boys are like up in the trees.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
The way they do everything.
Well, that sounds like a really good time.
Yeah.
Way to go. Way to hold it down as a dad. A lot of respect there. So what we're going to do, where we're going to work this, I typically like to talk a little bit about where you're at, how you got there. So then we're going to dive a little bit in the past. We might go deep today if you're okay with that.
We'll do it. We'll talk about whatever you want.
And then we're going to talk about the future and on a fired up high note here. Before we were recording today, the word billionaire with a B came up in conversation. So we're going to dive into that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So let's talk a little bit about where you're at in your business and your life today. What do you have going on? Take your time with this. I know you got a lot.
Yeah. It's tough. Yeah, I have a lot. And probably what's maybe prevented me from being as big as I possibly could is because I have a lot. Meaning I've met a lot of guys that focused on one business and went really, really deep into one business. And as a result, that one business grew faster. Like if you focus on one thing, it's going to grow.
Yeah.
But yeah, part of my journey is we'll go back and do it. I made millions and went broke a couple times, before this last run up.
How many times?
Twice.
2 times.
Yeah. So and so before like this last run up. And so that created this other mindset of like hedging my bets a little bit, of seeing like what took me out before and what could have prevented that. And so that was part of why I have like added some extra businesses and things like that, which has prevented some from growing. But when COVID hit, like a couple of my businesses completely got shut down, whereas like 4 or 5 of my businesses did great. And so that was one of those moments where I was glad that I wasn't focused on just one. So depends on who you talk to and how you do it in the industry. But some people say, no, you should focus on one business and grow. Most of my businesses started in real estate, right? And when I started in real estate, it wasn't growing businesses. First I was working for a home builder. I got out of college, was working for a home builder.
Doing what?
So I was the director of operations at their, essentially for production home builder.
Okay.
In Southern California. And so everything I have now is in real estate, but I started like working for somebody, then I started flipping, but that wasn't really running a business yet. That was like going through the motions all myself. I didn't have employees yet. And so now I have a real estate holding company where we own a whole bunch of houses that we bought, over time. It'll be a fun thing that we get to talk about on how we did it.
How long of time?
So from 2009 to 2012, I flipped 1,000 houses on the courthouse steps. I kind of invented an industry there. I was a home builder, and then the housing market crashed, and I went from, making, it's essentially 6 figures plus a year right out of college. We were golfing a couple days a week to all of a sudden we laid off 70 out of 75 people and we were trying to start new business. Trying to buy REOs, but we couldn't get our offers accepted. We discovered courthouse step foreclosures and no one was doing it. And then pretty quickly said like, wait, this is something that I can do at scale. I can run it like a home builder. So from 2009 to 2012, I flipped 1,000 houses, buying on the courthouse steps, fixing, selling. We had giant real estate teams, construction teams, warranty teams. And 2012, these guys from Blackstone came out and met with me. And they were like, hey, we're getting into the single family rental industry. We think buying at auction there's great values out there. You should come work for us. Come work for us, shut down your company, come be our employee. And I should have Googled like, who is Blackstone? Because they literally said, hey, if you don't come to work for us, like we'll put you out of business. Like it's not like if we're coming. And I was like, young, early 20s. I was kind of self-made at that point. And I was like, you're not going to put me out of business. Like, even if we just get our commissions from last month, essentially I thought that I was unstoppable. And, 2012, they put me out of business. Right. So from 2009 to 2012, I flipped houses, right? Did really well. From 2013, essentially to 2015, I was scrambling, trying to figure out what to do.
What did they do to put you out of business?
Essentially bought everything that was on the market. So when they said they were going to buy rentals, I was like, well, I kind of looked at the houses that I bought over the last month or two, and I was like, well, this wouldn't be a good rental. This wouldn't be a good rental. This wouldn't be a good. So now they're not going to really compete with this because these rentals would only make like 1% a year. They're not going to beat. But I didn't understand their business plan because they said they were in the single family rental space. But the way they put me out of business is they bought everything that was at auction. And at that time I had, 20 employees and company cars and health plans. And every morning we'd come pick up cashier's checks. They would drive to auctions and you'd get outbid. It was normal to like have a week where you'd have a dry run, right? So it was like, you just keep going, right? You're like, okay, we didn't get one. But then after 6 months of like going to auction and not being able to bid, they bought every single house at auction. They bought every single house on MLS over like a 4 or 5 month period. And by the time they were done, like 6 months later, housing prices had gone up like 40 to 45% in Northern California.
Damn.
Because they bought everything and they pushed the demand up. And then they did these giant cash out refis and then I was like, oh, that was the plan. So they were doing single family rentals, but their way to make money wasn't actually net cash flow. It was buying something for a deal. Which really helped me later when I started doing that. But so I started getting into real estate on my own, 2009. And then 2013 to 2015, essentially was broke. Went from making a couple $100,000 a month to like trying to figure out how to pay my bills. I remember, early 2015, like applying to be an Uber driver and like a building inspector. And I was like, no, I just need to get a regular job to keep, so I don't essentially lose my house in foreclosure, which would have been the most ironic, thing ever. I ended up at an auction out here in Texas.
How'd you end up with that?
So the only good investment I bought in like 2010, 2011 was I bought an apartment complex in a town called Killeen, Texas, just about an hour north of here. Yeah. I only bought that because one of our investors said like, hey, I bought this apartment last year, essentially for like 1.4 million. And he's like, I really just need to get rid of it. And the cash flow looked good on paper. When I went and toured it, it was so bad. I said, hey, the most I could give you was like 300,000. So you should just list it on MLS. But he ended up selling it to me for 300,000.
Okay.
That was one of the incomes I had during that time. So 2015, the broker that was on that deal shoots me an email and says, hey, there's a apartment complex across the street from your other unit that's for sale right now. Here's the bankroll, everything on it. And so I'm like, all right, I'll look at it. And on the title report, it said was scheduled for foreclosure, had a notice of default on it. And it was scheduled for foreclosure in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, this is interesting because I have the rent rolls and all the items on it. So and even though I was broke, I still had a line of credit left from when we did go out of business. We dealt with our investors good, our bankers good. So when it was ready, so I came out in 2015 to an auction. And the trustee comes up to sell the apartment complex. I had brought enough money. It ended up going for like 320,000 and I got cold feet. She's like, would you like to bid? I was there for that one. I flew for that one.
Yeah.
And she goes, going once, going twice, sold. And I'm like, I don't buy. And I'm sitting there going like, what just happened?
It's frozen.
Yeah, I was frozen. I got cold feet because I hadn't been successful in like a few years.
Okay.
I said, what if I forgot? Like no one else is here bidding on it. What if I forgot how? What if I missed something? Like first time in Texas. So then I'm sitting there like pretty sad. like going like, man, I couldn't even afford the flight on Southwest to get out here. Now I got to go home. And another trustee comes up and starts selling houses at auction.
Were you married at the time?
I was.
So you're married at the time. You were kind of at a rock bottom place.
Yeah.
Yeah. You went out here to pick something up and to get the bacon, so to speak. You went home empty-handed.
Yeah.
What did that conversation look like?
Well, it was funny because right after that, I called Colleen and I said, man, I said, I didn't bid on it. She goes, what happened? I said, I didn't bid on it. She's like, what? I said, I got cold feet. And she's like, we couldn't even afford the flight for you to get out there. So while I'm sitting there sulking at auction, I hang up the phone. I haven't left yet. A trustee shows up and he starts selling houses, and they're selling for like $30,000 or $40,000 a piece. And I look around and nobody's standing there.
Yeah.
And he sells like 30 houses to nobody. Essentially, when they say the opening bid, if nobody buys it, it goes back to the bank. And I said, oh my God, this is like California 2009.
Oh.
Like when I went broke in 2012, when I started in California in 2009, there was 3 people at auction and hundreds of houses selling.
Yeah.
When I got put out of business by Blackstone, there was hundreds of people bidding on like a few houses at the end. And I had all these mantras of, if I ever get another chance, I'll do this different, this different, this different. So I remember sitting there going like, oh, I must have learned my lesson because here's my other chance. This is like I'm getting a redo. I'm getting a redo of seeing, again, an industry in a market where no one else is aware of it. And then so even though I was sad I didn't get the apartment,
yeah,
I had a little bit of hope.
You're still here.
You
had the call.
Well, then flew home.
Oh, you flew. Okay,
the auction happens once a month.
Right. Okay. Got it.
So auction happens once a month. And so then the next month I fly out on Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I do my system. I drive all the houses. I comp them. I do title. I show up at auction on that next Tuesday and I buy 2 houses.
Wow.
And I drive to Home Depot and I go buy a drill and a lockbox.
Yeah.
And I turn on electricity on the way there so I can charge the drill outside for a minute. I drill the lock on the front door so I can change the locks because the moment you win an auction, and I open the door and the house had never been lived in.
What?
It was built a year prior. And the person who bought it never ended up moving in. So I had a brand new house.
Yeah.
I paid $114,000 for it. It was a 3,000 square foot house with granite counters and stainless appliances, brand new, up and clean. And I sold it for like $270,000 a month later. And I was like, I'm back. So but the crazy part, so the big difference, I remember I'd flipped 1,000 houses and went broke. And I remember thinking, man, if I'd have just kept 100 of those houses, I'd have been set for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this time the method was totally opposite. I started coming out every month. I'd buy 10 houses. I would flip just enough to pay my bills and be a down payment for the others. And then I would put renters in the others and just hold them. And just said, this time I'm going to do long-term holds. I also said prices will never go up in Texas. I'm tired of riding the big old wave. I just want nice and steady, nice and easy.
Wow. Yeah. You really applied a ton of lessons from what you learned in the past.
Yeah.
To get you where you're at today. And there's a strong reflection of the two processes.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing.
The benefit of losing really, really bad, right? Like you make a ton of money and you lose it all, and like just sulking in that regret, you think about every little thing you did wrong.
Mm.
If I would have Googled Blackstone, if I would have tried to do a little bit more research of like, if I'm like, hey, their business plan isn't going to work. If I'd have just done a little bit more research on something else, right? Mm-hmm. Or if I would have held a couple of the rentals, if I'd had less staff, if I would have fired people sooner, like all these things, you get to reflect. Because I sat for 2 years going, again, I was super wealthy and then super broke. And so you go like, so you're sitting in pain.
Oh yeah.
Dude, you will learn your lesson.
It's like being in prison, mental prison.
Yeah, mental prison.
And all you have time to do is think.
All you have time to do is think. And so then you do learn these crazy lessons. So failure is the best way to learn something. Mm-hmm. But extreme, painful failure is how you learn something to where you go like, I don't want to do that again. And it helps you be more aware when the stuff was happening. So it helped me when I got my second chance, that I had really been just waiting for a second chance and had so much time to reflect on essentially my mistakes.
So are you still acquiring and flipping?
Not as much right now. But mostly because of the way the market is.
Okay.
So 2015 to 2020, I flew out here. I bought 10 houses a month, and I would rent them and fly back. I remember being a year or two in, I had like 200 houses. And at that point I wasn't actually making that much money. And I remember thinking like, man, this is a lot of work. every month I fly out here, I'm doing this. Now we're managing a couple hundred houses. My cash flow was maybe like $10,000 a month by that time. And it was hard to even stay the course because I'm like, if I could start maybe I start flipping a few more of these. I stayed the course, and so by the time 2020 hit, I had 500 houses. And then the market went crazy. And rates were super low. And a lot of them that I had acquired, back in 2015 were now worth double or triple what I bought them for. So it was like, so that was this big win. So it was like doing a bunch of singles, like buying rentals and holding. Like sometimes in real estate, singles can turn into a giant home run. So 2020 was the home run. And then January 2021, the market, I don't know if you guys remember if you were in real estate at the time, but 2020 was crazy from like March to December, prices going up, boom. January hits, and from the holidays, and a lot of people were going like, man, that was wild. I bet we're going to see a housing crash now because prices went up so high. It can't keep going. A lot of places are still on lockdown. So January 2021 got really, really slow. All of a sudden, days on market were increasing. Nobody was going to auction. And we did some analysis about like what was going on. We're like, well, Biden just got elected. They just put a lot more stimulus into the economy. And part of the mastermind and part of everybody was saying, inflation's going to go through the roof right now. Rates are super, super low. And if inflation's going to go through the roof, you should buy an asset. And essentially inflation at that time the rate was like 5 or 6%. And in theory, it was like, if you can buy something with a 3% interest rate when inflation is 5, that arbitrage spread is a home run no matter what.
Let's take a quick moment to shout out the people making big moves in real estate, the elite residential group at Keller Williams Realty. With over $90 million in sales volume and more than 300 families helped, they're one of the top real estate teams in Central Texas for a reason. Whether you're buying, selling, or just figuring out your next step, they make the process simple and centered around your priorities.
Greg and his small team have been absolutely crushing the Austin real estate market, producing incredible numbers.
He is always responsive. He's always on point. He never misses anything.
I would highly recommend him for anybody looking to buy or sell in the Austin, Texas area.
Hit the link in the description to book your free consultation.
So January 2021, we set when everybody else was slow.
Yeah.
I remember emailing my broker and we said, we're going to do the Blackstone model. And I said, I need you to get me a list of every property on the market in Bell County listed 1985 and newer. And we're going to buy all of them for full price. We're going to make offers on everything on MLS. So it's January 2021.
Put all your chips
in Bell County. I said I need to buy $45 million worth of properties in the next 60 days. And we started making offers on everything on the market. It was slow, and everybody accepted all of our offers. And then we went to these new home neighborhoods where builders were building out whole neighborhoods. And we went to the builders and we essentially got all their properties under contract. Duplexes, single family, everything. The interesting part about the duplexes in particular. So we were in contract for $280,000 a duplex. And again, we did whole neighborhoods, 7 or 8 builders, 10 apiece, all these brand new construction duplexes. Right. By the time they started getting done in October, which was just, 10 months, 8 months later, they were appraising for $400,000. So we were getting to buy them with essentially cash out refinance at purchase.
Yeah.
The day we bought them, we actually got a check and a low interest rate. And so that was like learning the lesson from like, I can't believe Blackstone put me out of business by doing this, by seeing the opportunity and doing this big price grab. January 2021, I was like, okay, I'd learned from the pain. I had really looked at it, dissected it, said, wait, this is my moment to do that same thing. We stopped acquiring at scale about a year ago. We're still doing some flips, but when the market's a little bit questionable of when to enter and how, safest way is like, essentially quick turn sort of flips. I do think that the market's corrected enough that now we're probably in the bottom third of it. And so if somebody can buy, if we could buy one today that would like cash flow at a 7% interest rate, we would buy them. Or we're also trying to buy a lot of like subject to deals, but we're not buying as aggressively as we were. And when I say we, like some of it's with my partnership, some of it's just me and my employees, some of it's with, with different investment groups. So, but yeah, it's a lot slower right now.
Who's your main point of contact in the everyday grind, so to speak?
Probably my personal assistant.
Okay.
So she's the one that runs through my emails. She clears the stuff out to see which ones are important for me and which ones aren't. Helps with it. I mean, she helps with everything. There was a great book that, like 18 months ago, I went on a trip to Croatia with a bunch of the guys in my mastermind. right? There's 20 of us in Croatia.
What's the name of the mastermind?
It's called Go Abundance.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were in Croatia on a yacht for 2 weeks, right? And what was amazing about that trip for me is we're hanging out, and I was like working every day. Like with the time change, I like had to make sure I had email access. I was on emails like an hour or two a day, like making sure everything was working right.
Yeah.
And there were several guys on the trip that were like, I don't have to do anything over the next 2 weeks. My company is taking, like, I know that it's handled. They're taking care of that. And I'm like, so I'm working every day while on vacation, and these guys aren't. And I found myself going, and my businesses were bigger than theirs, but I found myself going, I want your life instead of mine. And then right after that trip, I read a book called Buy Back Your Time.
Awesome.
By Dan Martell.
Yeah.
I used to be part of Dan's mastermind. I've interviewed him on my podcast a couple of times. Great dude. When his book came out, it was a life changer. And one of his first things is talks about getting the assistant that's going to get you so much time back. So, so
you did it. I took action.
Huh?
Took action.
Took action right away.
Yeah.
And then had to spend a few weeks actually really, like, when you trust somebody to like take over your email, it took some time. Like 6 months later, I got to go on a golf trip in Bandon in Oregon for like 8 or 9 days. And I didn't look at my email one time.
It's priceless.
During that. Yeah. And it was like, okay, I went from having like, so she's the one I have, my main point of contact every day is checking with her.
Yeah.
Because she's getting to check in with like all my generals at each of the companies and things like that.
What about a sounding board for big business decisions? So who do you speak to for that?
Yeah. So I've got a couple guys, and we don't do it super often. So like when I joined Go Abundance, that was the first time I'd ever been a part of a mastermind. It was at a perfect time for me because it was 2015, just as I was starting to be successful again. Because one of my problems in 2012 was when the Blackstone said like, hey, come work for us or we'll put you out of business. I didn't have a sounding board. I didn't have mentors telling me what to do. When on the months when I made $300,000 or $400,000, I didn't have mentors saying, you should buy a couple rentals and do that, or you should invest in something else or buy a business. I didn't have sounding boards. Right. So then the mastermind became my sounding board. And then there's a couple guys now that are my big sounding boards. My buddy Dan has a really big VA company. So when he has big business decisions, he's got thousands and thousands of employees. And he's got big business decisions. He reaches out to me. When I've got some, I reach out to him. There's different guys that I think are mentors in the space of it. I don't have anybody that's done real estate the way that I do it as a mentor, but real estate for me has really just become running a business. Right. It's not just about buying houses anymore. Like I couldn't have owned 800 houses if I was just a real estate guy. Right. And then the other stuff that we shot. So yeah, I've got guys that I bounce ideas off of that are guys that I met through different masterminds or events that run their own businesses.
I want to encourage everybody to really take note of what Aaron just said about how he didn't have a sounding board until he joined a mastermind.
Yeah.
That's pretty pivotal in your experience. Yeah.
Biggest advice for anyone trying to be successful in anything is having a sounding board and having mentors and having partners and having people that are like more successful than you in business. Right. I made a video about it the other day, but like the equation to being great at something is like, first you want to say that you want to be great at it. You want to get a coach that's going to help you with it. And then you're going to put in the reps. Whether you want to be good at surfing, at snowboarding, buying houses, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you decide you want to, you get a coach. So they like teach you the methods that they know already. You go get in the reps because now it takes practice. And then you review the tape, right? You go back afterward and you're like, okay, so let's reflect. So if you're trying to learn how to surf, you're reviewing the actual videotape, right? If you're trying to do business, you're reviewing like, let's reflect back to the last couple months with your mentor. Like, hey, so this house did good. And you could talk through why and those sorts of things. So
a lot of similarities with sports and business.
Yeah. And the other part about a mastermind, I remember when I was growing my business like 2010, 2011, I didn't have anybody I could have real conversations with. The only people I was talking to were like other parents at like my kid's school at drop-off line. I couldn't say I made $100,000 on this flip, or I made $1 million on this apartment deal, or I lost $1 million last year on this. They weren't going to, if you say I lost $1 million last year, they weren't feeling sorry for you. So I didn't have anybody that I talked to that actually experienced anything like I was experiencing. And then the first time I got to a mastermind, I remember being like, oh, I'm not alone. It was for the first time I didn't have to hold back my conversation. So if people are out there, if you're successful and you don't actually have one, you probably find yourself like, when people are like, hey, what do you do? And you're like, oh, I do some real estate stuff. right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you're not going to go like, well, I actually like, flip $1 million homes and I do this. So the benefit of the mastermind too is you get to say, this is what I'm doing, and then get the true advice of like, oh, I lost $1 million on this. And they go, oh, why? Like somebody that can dissect it with you.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Nice job. Why Bell County?
Dude,
How'd you,
it was God's
all
plan,
places,
man. It was God's plan and dumb luck. And that was where I had that apartment. I'd never, like, the only other time I'd been there was when I flew out to go see the apartment. The only other time I'd been to Texas before coming to that auction was I flew out to buy that apartment. I was so terrified of flying. Instead of flying into like doing a connection to get to Austin, there was no direct flight from SAC.
Oh.
So I flew to Dallas and then rented a car and like drove 2 hours instead of getting a flight to closer, because I figured if I did a connection flight, I was doubling my chances of dying by air.
That's true.
And so I hated flying, went out there and saw that house, and I was like, this is crazy. Nothing like it was, or that apartment. And I wasn't planning on like ever coming back to Bell County. So it was just super lucky, man, because it was super lucky at the same time. The other benefit that happened that was the perfect storm in Bell County was, it's tons of VA buyers up there. So tons of VA buyers, because it's the biggest Army base in the U.S., or one of the biggest in the U.S.
Yep.
So if you're flipping houses, VA buyers is kind of tough, because when you comp something, comps say, hey, this house sold for $200,000. What it's not taking into consideration is that every one of them you're giving 3% back to the VA buyer to be able to buy a house. So flipping wise, you be, oh, I bought it for $150, I can sell it for $200. But after full commissions and after always giving the 3% for the stuff, you don't have that big of a spread. But the amazing thing about military neighborhoods for buy and holds is the appraisal is based on the $200,000.
Okay.
Not the $200,000 minus the 4% VA concessions minus the other thing.
Yeah.
So you were like getting this extra boost. So essentially we could refinance for the same and get the same amount back as if we flipped it because of that. So if you're going to do buy and hold neighborhoods, and I learned it by accident, by just being up there in Bell. But if you do buy and hold neighborhoods in like heavy military communities where there's lots of VA, you get a lot more bang for your buck, because you can essentially refi and pull out the profit you would if you flipped it, but now you get to keep the house.
Yeah, the stability there with the veterans and the military guys too. Probably very consistent.
Yeah,
rental income, right? I'd imagine.
Yeah, very very consistent. And then but that appraisal part of it was the bigger part.
Yeah.
Like, if you get money, like you flip the house, but also get the long-term rental. There are different times when military will all of a sudden like move out somewhere.
Yeah.
Where like there are certain months where people are getting orders, and then they're like, hey, we're moving in 2 weeks without notice. So there's like been a couple shots where we're like, ooh, that was a rough month.
Yeah.
Because the only other downside about a military town is they do big things in unison.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I learned too was so much of the towns are based on, those military towns are based on like providing for the base. So even though like only like 20% of our residents are probably people that are military, the 80%, like all the rest of them are providing essentially a service.
Like the chefs on base,
Exactly.
people that maintain it.
Even the movie theater in town.
Right.
Like the movie, like, so like, cause they have to build new neighborhoods there in order to get officers to want to move to these towns. So like so much of the cities get to be subsidized based on that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you're still slightly dabbling in the flipping and acquisition space. No, let's
It's still my favorite thing to do. Right.
Like, you got to have fun.
It's exciting. I mean, you know a lot better than I do. It's really thrilling.
There's nothing like walking into a house, when it's like auction wise and you unlock the door and you don't know what you're going to see on the other side. Or when you like see an opportunity of something and you get that before and after where you're like, well, right now this house is crappy. We're going to build it out and then how you feel when you like somebody gets to move into a house that was on like flippers sometimes get a bad name. And I'm like, flippers are who can absolutely rescue the market. There's like 6 million vacant houses out there and a 3 million housing shortage. You're like, but the 6 million vacant houses are just like crappy old houses. Like, what's the solution? You need flippers to go like fix up the old ones. So people like, they don't need to build new houses. They just need to actually fix up the vacant ones that are out there.
Superheroes to the rescue.
So still doing a little bit of it, but because I love to do it.
Yeah.
But financially right now, it's not my best focus for my business plan.
And I'm going to veer on the side of caution here and ask about the, let's just talk about the electronic space, the tech space that you're diving into, that you've been involved in actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So I remember back in, like 2012, another one of my pivotal moments. I'm standing at that auction and there's hundreds of people there bidding and everybody was signed up to the same software. Same software program. It's called Foreclosure Radar. Buddy of mine now, his name's Sean. I didn't meet him until just the last few years, but he was the guy that owned it. I remember thinking the only person winning today is Sean, because everybody here is paying $99 a month for that software, and only 3 people bought a house today, but 100 people were using that software.
Yeah.
So in 2017. So now I have a little bit of. I've been doing pretty well and now in clean. And then I had expanded to other places in Texas, to Austin and south of here. I was subscribing to a company called Roddy's Foreclosure Listing Service, and I had like built my app. And I remember reaching out to them and said, "Hey," I was like praying in the shower, and I said, "Reach out to these guys." I sent them a cold email. "Hey, I've got some software I'd like to send to your clients." They actually emailed me back right away, and we spent like 6 months of me trying to build this white label app to be able to sell my product to their people. And then it ended up fizzling out, or it's a longer story, but we weren't able to come to a deal. And then 2017, but I wanted to create that as a hedge. 2017, the owner passed away that owned the company.
Dang.
And I sent an email that just said, sorry for your loss to the other guys that were part of the company that I'd met with over there. And I didn't think anything else of it. And a month later, a guy calls me and he essentially says like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember meeting me when we were doing the software stuff, but I'm representing, George's wife who inherited the company, and would you be interested in buying it?" And it was really, really crazy in this lesson of like building good relationships and putting forth the effort. I remember when the deal didn't go through, I remember going like, "God, why did you send me down this path?" Because I didn't have the $30,000 to really build that white label. And now that the deal fell out, like, why did this happen? And I remember when I got that call, I'm like, "Oh, thank you. That's why it happened." So because it was essentially a year later when I got the opportunity, and they didn't take it to market. They didn't say like, because a bunch of people wanted to buy the company.
Right.
They brought it to me,
Yeah.
and they said, "Make me an offer." Made them an offer. They sold me the company. So at that point, it was just a data company.
Yeah.
And that I started taking the other software that I built and adding on top of. My mindset was the same as like, I knew that eventually people would start outbidding me in Texas. So, but if people wanted to outbid me at the time, that meant there was going to be a lot. Because right now, when I was buying in clean, nobody was there. It was me buying everything. I knew eventually there'd be 20 or 30 or 50 people there.
Only matter of time.
Right. It only mattered of time, like it was in California. So I wanted to make sure I bought the software company, the data company, essentially. So when there was 50 people there outbidding me, then I would at least be selling them the software like Sean was out there. So the software just started as foreclosure data. 2017, I bought that company. In 2018, 2019, 2020, there would become counties that now had 50 or 100 subscribers that I could no longer compete, because I like getting deals because nobody else knows about the deals. I like finding the secret and getting the deal. So my own clients were putting me out of business in certain markets, but it was great because it was the ultimate hedge. It was another one of those lessons when I went broke. It was like that ultimate hedge of what I could do. And then last year, about a year, well, I guess probably like 18 months ago, we started switching our this version of software that I was using to buy houses, because what we found was what was unique about the COVID era is there's people scheduled for foreclosure every month right now.
Right.
But 90 to 95% of them have a ton of equity. The unique thing about Texas is if somebody stops making their payment today, they miss their January payment, they could be scheduled for auction on February 3rd.
Wow.
Oh, right? You can miss one payment and lose your house here.
Dang.
In California, it's like a 9-month process. In Texas, it is not. Like it's a 21-day notice. It's fast. So you have people out here in Texas that are like, "Hey, you're going to lose your house in 21 days. They have $200,000 in equity, but the market's kind of slow. So they could go list it on MLS, but they could sell it for more, but and most of them don't know they only had 21 days. They don't know that after they missed their first payment, they could actually get foreclosed on. And so there's a ton of equity in a very short period of time. So we started transitioning our software and our product. We still have plenty of people that go to auction and buy, but we wanted to create ways for people to find those people ahead of time. So we added this like outbound, essentially outreach software. It's like a built-in CRM where it's calling, texting, emailing, essentially saying.
Well, did yours give people ratings by chance on how likely they are to want to sell?
Yeah. So we have a likely to sell, we have a likely to default, and then first it starts with foreclosures, right? So the highest, motivated is you're losing your house at auction in 3 weeks. And so then our software will say, hey, you could send everybody a text message within about 15 minutes of time, customized text messages, batching through 10 DLCC compliant because no text messages are the same. We have certain conversations as ways we get people to opt in or opt out. So essentially, foreclosure list comes out in 3 days for the February auction. We blast out to everybody that's scheduled for auction. Hey, I have a client looking to buy a house in your neighborhood. And we can go into scripts and stuff later if you want, if you have real estate listeners. But so the software essentially does this outreach and says, hey, would you like to sell us your house? And it gives this opportunity where they're like, oh, I'm losing my house in 3 weeks. Like maybe I'll sell to somebody now. So those are people that are like in default. And so we mastered a way where you can quickly try to do that because that's when it's like a match made in heaven. They owe $100,000 on their house. It's worth $200,000. In 3 weeks, they're going to lose it and get zero. If you give them 120, 140, 150, 180, right? You're still getting a deal and they're walking away with cash. It is a win-win. Super, super happy. And there's all sorts of ways to scale that. And then we came up with this newer software, it's just a newer data piece. So we mastered how to do the foreclosure leads, but there's only a certain amount. There's 6,000 in Texas this month, right? That's a lot, but it's not, but you can't run a whole business on it. Then our new lead that we came up with was a likely to default lead. And that's somebody that is likely to miss their first mortgage payment in the next 120 days. It could be because it's a AI generated stuff from a combination of things. So it could be they stopped paying their water bill, so they've got liened by the city. They stopped mowing their lawn, because as soon as you start having troubles, like missing your mortgage payment's usually the last thing. The extra signs are like they stopped mowing their lawn because they realized they're going to lose their house, right? They stopped taking care of the outside. They stopped paying their water bill. Like they know they got to pay their mortgage, but they know the city's not actually going to shut off their water if they live there. So their water stays on, but they start getting lien. So our software goes through all this other data set and says, oh, these people are likely to default in the next 120 days. The downside of a foreclosure lead is you only have 3 weeks to do the deal, right? And so sometimes like the paperwork doesn't get done in time. The likely to default is a very similar lead. They're not quite as motivated, but they know they're starting to have trouble and they're likely to default in the next 120 days. It's a lot more likely you can get a deal with them to buy somewhere between what they owe and what it's worth. But you can do a normal transaction. You don't need cash. You can get a loan on it. You don't need hard money, that sort of thing.
You haven't mentioned the names of the softwares.
Yeah.
Are you not allowed to?
Oh no, I'd love to. I just try to.
Great.
I try to provide value and but without advertising. But I appreciate it. So our company's called PropHawk. So it's PROPHAWK.
Oh, very good.
And our big pitch that we tell people, so like especially people in like the real estate like investing space. So we have all the same data as PropStream. PropStream is one of the biggest data providers that's out there right now. We have the same texting solution as Launch Control. So Launch Control is one of the biggest texting platforms out there. We have a dialer that's like DialPad built in, and we have a CRM like InvestorFuse. But the difference is it's all in one thing. So instead of signing up $99 for PropStream and $650 for Launch Control and $150 for InvestorFuse, right? Like we're one package instead. And our one package is super cheap. Like we started like $20 a month. And then when people if you want to get the same like $900 package of number of leads, those other ones, we're $150 a month compared to other people's 1,000. So why are we so much cheaper? Like we're so much cheaper. One, because we're the new guy. Two is a lot of the data feed that we get. I had that anyway for my foreclosure data company where we just sell the foreclosure leads.
Yeah.
So it's like a sunk cost that we don't have to worry about. And then the challenge with PropHawk, if I'm being honest, I said it at kind of the beginning. If you focus on one business, you can grow one business.
Yeah.
It's funny because we have data and texting and calling and CRM all in one. Some people aren't really used to that.
It's a lot.
They're like, they would like rather have their system. They'll come to us like, oh, I'm looking for a way to replace Launch Control. Cool, you can replace Launch Control, but we can also replace all your other stuff. Right? They're like, oh, we're going to import our list from PropStream. It's like, okay, you can do that, but for free, because you're doing the texting, you can already import the others. So I think if we were just a texting platform or it would almost be easier to sell our product.
Yeah.
If we said we're just leads, we're just likely to default leads, or we're just a texting platform, or we're just a CRM. And the fact that like, in my mind, I wanted something that was ease of use. Instead of exporting and importing, on one screen I go, here's my leads, and on another screen I start texting. Right. So, but PropHawk is our software. We're really, really proud of it.
When you say we,
so my team. So this would be my sales team.
and how many people in org?
So my Roddy company we've got like 9 people that are software developers.
Okay.
But they're all overseas. So we've got an office that's overseas. And then I probably have 6 people in my office here that do like onboarding, customer success, that sort of stuff. That's still like startup size.
Mm-hmm.
But man, every time I do a webinar, the craziest part about the product is every time I do like a live webinar, once a month I do a live webinar, and people will get on there. And like last month I did one, it was like, all right, who's here? And there were some guys in Las Vegas on there, and there were some guys in like San Antonio on there. And the guys in Las Vegas, I'm like, all right, tell me your market. Tell me your zip code. And like during this webinar, I start pulling leads in their area. I skip trace it. I start texting, and I'm like hitting the button texting while I'm answering other questions about like whatever. Right. And by the end of the conversation, I'm like, oh, we got some replies. Let's text some people back. And then we had one guy say like, hey, I am interested in selling my home next month, and I'm looking for somebody to list it. Cool. So we got a listing lead out of it. And then we had another listing lead come out of it. And near the very end, somebody says, yes, they're interested in selling. The webinar ends, and within like 15 minutes, I lock up a contract with the guy. So then I send everybody an email afterward. I'm like screenshots of the text. So our texts are really simple that we send out.
Gotta keep them simple.
It's like, hi, I'm looking for the owner of the house on Main. Hi, is this John? Do you still own the house on Main Street? Right? Or it's, hi, is it John? Do you still own the house in Bell County? Or hi, I'm looking for John. Right?
Yeah.
And so the goal of that first one isn't to say, I see you're in foreclosure. Can I buy your house? Hey, I'm a real estate agent. Anything like that. Any of that stuff gets caught as spam and flagged. You're just saying the whole goal of the first text message is an opt-in or an opt-out. And people want to say like, I see you're losing your house in this. Like I have opportunities where you don't. Like if you're going to do texting, and the same thing we do with our cold calling. First call, is this John? Now people will say yes or no because they don't know if their dog got out. Hey John, you still own the house on Main Street? They don't know if their dog got out and you're calling, if there's like a water main break, like whatever. So you have a way better chance of like opt in, opt out, because you want people to either opt in and say like, yes, we can talk, or our text also says, type in stop to opt out forever. If someone hits stop, nobody within any of our software systems can ever text them. So then we don't have to worry about people getting mass texted, mass called, mass sued. The conversation starts with that. Hi, is this John? They say yes. Hi, John, I have a customer looking to buy a house in your neighborhood. Do you know anyone in your neighborhood interested in selling? And usually we'll say like we'll figure out if John owes $100,000 and the house is worth $200,000. We'll say, hi, I have a client trying to buy a home in your neighborhood for around $150,000. Do you know anyone in your neighborhood that's interested in selling? And at the end of that last webinar, the guy goes, yes. And I said, well, are you interested in selling? And he said, yes. And I said, for 150,000, 150K?
Yeah.
And he goes, yes. And I said, what's your email? I'll send you a contract. And he puts his email in the chat, and we send him a DocuSign, and he signs it. And it was like, and we had plenty of people say, F you, don't text me, which is interesting. But that's another reason why we try to go so simple on the first outbound, on the cold calls and everything. It's like, I want them to opt out or opt in. So we're not trying to sell anything at the beginning. We're not trying to offer up anything, but anyway, the reason we're so proud of the software, I digress way too much with my stories, but we're really proud of it because every time we do a live webinar, by the end of it, we're getting a couple leads out of that. And that's like what we do in that first hour would really take like a $30 investment from somebody in an hour of time.
Yeah.
And if you're an agent, like real estate agents right now, it's a lot tougher to get inventory, a lot tougher to get product. Investors, it's a lot tougher to get product. And
that's why we're transitioning into targeting off-market properties right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is a little bit more challenging to get the retail buyers and sellers.
I think everybody should be like this hybrid agent.
Yeah.
Because half the thing I'll say, hey, would you want to sell your house for 150? And the guy goes, no, it's worth 200. He's right. It is worth 200. And I go, cool. Have you thought about selling it on MLS? I bet you can get it for 200. And I had the guy reply and go, what's MLS? It's like he bought it from a home builder. He walked into the sales office. He's going to lose his house in foreclosure in 3 weeks. He doesn't know that in order to sell it, he should hire an agent now. You'd be amazed at how many people own houses and have no idea how to sell a house. And like, they're waiting for you to call. So I couldn't believe when he goes, what is MLS? So as you become this hybrid target off market stuff, you're going to get a chance to buy investments. And then some of the time you're still talking to them, and some of them are like, no, I actually want to sell it for 200. You're like, cool, let me sell it for you for 200. That's great.
Yeah.
I can sell it for you for 200. I can buy it for 150 today, and you can stay there for 2 months and move out, and I'll do all the cleaning, or I'll put it for you on MLS and we'll do showings and we'll sell it for 200.
Cool. So, okay. You got the software, still dabbling a little bit. for lack of a better term, how else you making money?
It's like a lot of diversification stuff. I own a title company too. So like
Here,
It sounds like it's all in the same field. All real estate related.
it's all real estate related because I stay where I'm comfortable, right? I've done some long-term land development stuff.
Okay.
But like we've got the I have properties that we own that we just get rentals on, right? So that's the way we make money. We have we have Roddy's foreclosure listing service, which was the foreclosure data. We have PropHawk, which is like the outbound communication tool with data. I have a company called Lead Propeller that helps people get like online websites right away. So essentially, before you go knock on a door, you tell them, hey, I want to buy your house. They're like, cool, what's your website? And you're like, I don't have one, right? So our Lead Propeller lets people say for like $40 a month, you go in and you answer like 8 questions, and all of a sudden you've got this giant website of, John buys houses in Austin, right? .com.
Yeah.
And it has 50 pages built in. There's even pages like how to stop foreclosure, like how to deal with probate and bankruptcy. So then they go, what's your website? So that's another one of our income streams. The title company is good, but man, like the volume's been down a lot, right? So starting a title company in 2022 compared to 2021 wasn't as good, and we're not making money on our cash out refis anymore, which for a while that was like always like every year that was like the biggest.
Non-tax too.
Non-tax. So cash out refis are non-tax and huge money, and you still get to own the house. It's like flipping a house and keeping it. It was the most beautiful part of real estate. And then investing in some long-term land deals, and then building construction. A new thing I'm pretty excited about is this modular home construction opportunity.
I saw that on your Instagram.
Yeah.
That was fascinating.
Dude, it's fascinating.
I think my biggest thing was the timeline, right? Because think of
drop off.
Yeah, and normally a new build is 8 to 12 months on a 2,500 to 3,500 square foot home. So if you can have that thing built in a factory, have it dropped in, I mean, you're saving a lot of money. You're making a lot of money.
I think this is the year I'm so excited about it.
Oh,
and there's
cool.
There's a couple. I'll go into it for a second. Because I think this is pretty much my last business. Other than for a while I would invest in other people, or I would invest in crypto and stuff like that. And I tell people like, don't invest in other crypto, invest in you, or don't invest in other people, invest in you, because nobody's going to treat your money the way you treat your money. Nobody's going to value it like you do. Unless you have absolutely no way. Like there's some people that no, they have a job where they make $300,000 a year. They have no interest in learning anything else. Like those are the people that will invest in people like us.
Yeah.
So in Killeen, some of those duplexes that were worth $400,000 when I closed on them, we wanted to sell some this year because not everything, we didn't get great rates on everything. And we're trying to essentially generate cash at a slower time. So go to put them on the market like 410, 420. And the best offers we're getting are like 360. But we're getting a lot of offers at 360. So we go, all right, that's not interesting enough. We're not going to sell. And so like, well, what do we do? So it's not that people don't want to buy, but people can't afford what a lot of people want to sell for, right? That's the market.
That's it.
So then we started analyzing this new modular model, right? Where you can get a house, you can get essentially anything built for about $100 a square foot. Super freaking nice product. Not like average product. $100 a square foot.
Yeah.
So then I started doing the math. All right, so my duplexes in Killeen are 1,400 square foot a side, right? So I could build one for $280,000, but at a higher level of construction than the ones that I have, higher spec level, and get them done. And I can get lots for $25,000 to $35,000. Wait, I could actually build. Those I could sell for $360,000. Again, I have a bunch of people want to buy my duplexes for $360,000.
Yeah.
So I could actually be $320,000 all in on these things and start selling them. So like, could you actually build brand new construction today and sell them at today's rates? Like, yes. So I think modular is fascinating for that. A couple other reasons it's fascinating, with like the timeline wise. Mm-hmm. So I used to be a home builder where we would build out neighborhoods. We would have model homes, and you'd have all these houses under construction, which is cool. And you had giant construction loans because when you're building 10 or 20 houses at a time, like somebody might have reserved a lot, but they put down a $3,000 reserve. What I think we're going to be able to do with these modulars, and there's a whole different deal of like if you're doing them in downtown Austin and you're adding $1 million in value for $100 a square foot, that's fascinating because of the price per square foot. But even in these outskirt areas, let's say we go now develop, get 100 lots together. Mm-hmm. I can build like 2 model homes and tell people like, hey, which one do you want? And they go, oh, I want that one. Which lot do you want? Oh, I want that one. While they like, now we get into escrow, a 30-day escrow, and they start getting their loan approved. Yeah. We can order the boxes essentially. Mm-hmm. And 30 days before their loan closes, their box is in, but we don't even have to pay for it until 30 days after that. So instead of having to finance a house to get bought, essentially people are going to be buying at closing. So instead of having to build a 100 home neighborhood before, I'd have to have $100 million.
You have to have the money.
$100 million line of credit, right?
Right.
And now, or not 100 million, but you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
You do have to have a giant line of credit, lots of loans. Now you don't, because now you could actually, I'm not having to pay for anything until they're paying for it too. So having new construction delivery stuff. Now the caveat for it being ready in 3 weeks is, first, the plan has to get approved by the state. So we go through and get the plan approved by the state. Once it gets approved by the state, and that's like a 60-day process. But once it's approved by the state, yeah, you're 3 weeks. It's automatic approval in the neighborhoods, and it's going to totally change the game.
It already is. I mean, it's got my mind moving pretty quick, honestly. You know, it blows my mind that it's only $100 a square foot. Yeah. It's crazy. It's that cheap. You know, I've been looking at some new builds myself outside of flipping, and the prices I've been getting from quotes from contractors is more like $225, $250 square foot. So it's less than half of that. Yeah. You know, I mean, the profit, like you were saying, in a 78702 downtown area, zip code here in Austin, you know, put like a nice modern new build spec home with that price. Yeah. Your profit is pretty great, especially if you don't have to pay up front for it. So you're saying, just to kind of grasp that fully, you're saying like you don't have to pay for it until it's delivered or till it's fully dropped off.
Until within 30 days after drop off.
30 days after.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So if you've pre-sold it, right, you're never actually putting anything out for it.
So it's an infinite return, because you're not really coming. Yeah. You're not coming out of pocket.
It's an infinite return. The dropping like a granny unit in the backyard.
Yeah.
Right? Like you got a nice expensive property downtown. You're just adding some square footage in the back. I own an apartment complex in McGregor, and I spent time getting this land next door approved for 96 units, like 18 months ago. Well, that was the work. So it's like, all right, so now, essentially I haven't started building it because the market changed, because rates changed, because construction changing, everything else. But the manufacturer says they can actually build the apartment complex with the boxes too.
No way.
So you can start so they're like,
is this manufacturer a secret?
I tell people to message me and I can do some of the intros on that, because there are a lot of different companies out there that are starting to do this. Okay. Right. And one of the guys that I've started to partner with, he just started building a new factory that's closer to Austin. So when that's done, instead of them having to get shipped from North Carolina and New Mexico and things like that, because that's where they're getting built.
Okay.
Right now they'll be here. So I'm very excited about that. I think the opportunities are going to be endless. Being able to buy, like, it's essentially apartment complexes and stuff too. There's some limitations, right? It's a more square deal. But if you're in town, when you see them get dropped, they drop them in by a crane, and then even the second floor, it comes in as a box, and then they fold up 2 sections to get the triangle at the top.
That's it.
So the crane pulls up a piece, and then the crane pulls up a piece, and then they fasten it together.
You know, when I first watched that part of like my monkey mind was like, no, let's just stick to what you know. You know, like there's no way that would be like beneficial or profitable. After actually hearing you and all of the details, I'm like, that is insanely innovative, and it's very fascinating. Yeah. That's cool.
People can even do really expensive. There's a video, if you search like China, you know, apartment modular, there's a video of this, you know, 20-story building getting put up in a day, from like all the building blocks getting put in place. You know, you could, if you send them a giant custom plan of like 10,000 square feet, that's not going to be $100 a square foot, right? Because they're going to have to piece everything together, and they'll have walls that are open and things like that. But for a lot of the product that's at least pretty normal around here, and duplexes and things like that, you send in a plan, and the plan that comes out is pretty similar. But I definitely believe in stick to what you know. Yeah. Right? Like, I definitely believe in that. If the cost wasn't so much less, and the time concept wasn't so innovating of that idea. Again, building out a neighborhood. If I'm going to build out a neighborhood, or like an apartment, the apartment could actually get finished in a day.
That's another powerful thing too, is moving this concept from residential to commercial, like you're saying. Yeah. I mean,
instead of 9 months construction of extra interest and things like that, you get to start lease up, you know, within a week or two of actually paying for the building.
Oh my God. That's wild. Yeah.
So that's my next exciting thing, because every year I'm trying to figure out what's next. I also make money with my masterminds. So I've got I have a few different ones. So I've got one that's called the Real Estate Rockstars, where it's just real estate agents come out here in March. I have a podcast called the Real Estate Rockstars, and a podcast called the King's Table. Those actually do make money and from other things too. King's Table, I recommend the All In podcast to you guys to listen to. King's Table is a similar format to that, where me and 3 other podcasters talk about life and business and things like that. So my Real Estate Rockstars Mastermind is just for agents. We come out to Austin every year. That sells out within a couple months every time. So it's in March. It's in like 6 weeks. But we sold it out in May. So that's a fun one. That started as like a give back thing, but now has been good. And then I do my investor deep dive stuff. I call it my inner circle.
Yeah.
Where I bring 15 people every quarter to my office. But those guys have to be experienced investors. They have to be people that are making at least $150,000 a year already.
Okay.
To come in, and we spend 2 days in real estate.
Sure.
And then they come spend a couple days at my office. And that's a fascinating, really fun event. Like that one is, because at the beginning, like maybe 8-10 months ago, I said, how am I going to make up for the fact that I'm not making an extra $200,000 a month flipping anymore? Right. So like what is one of the avenues to do that? And then, so the mastermind became part of that. And as a quick aside of how people make money, like social media, right? You guys talking about the stuff that I've been posting on social and those sorts of things. I have a few friends that have grown these giant Instagram, YouTube stuff. And I remember about 18 months ago, I was sitting with some of them, and I was talking about the fact that like if all of their businesses went out of business because of the social media reach they have, they could start something new tomorrow.
Right, because they have the contacts.
They could sell anything.
Yeah.
They could come to market.
Value. That's value.
Yeah. My buddy Brandon, like the DocuSign paid him like $20,000 to make a story that he was using DocuSign, right? So it's like, because of his reach. And so you go like,
right.
So then about 18 months ago, I said, I need to grow my social media brand because now I've been broke a couple times, right? And I think now, knock on wood somewhere, now I think that I'm well enough that I'm a lot safer than I was at any of those other times. But there's also this idea like of what if you had to start over? People will say, what if you had to start over? But so I'm just trying to grow a really big social media brand now of just leading with content, leading with lessons, leading with value, trying to teach people stuff. With that idea, if the bigger that I grow that, then the more people I can sell a product to, sell something to that's along the same lines. And so I've been working really, really hard at growing my social this year. And then the mastermind is probably the biggest part of that, of like, if people are on there, but even the stuff like the modulars, I make that video on the modulars and I've got 30 people that are saying, how do I do one of these?
Yeah.
Can you do it in this town, in this city, and that sort of thing? And that's totally based on social media growth. So I think social media is important. So that's another one of my businesses that doesn't pay me a whole lot of money right now, but is a big part of how I make money in my businesses, and someday it'll be one of its own little branches of my company.
So we gotta throw it back just for the sake of time here. We're gonna take a hard left turn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I talk too much, I know.
Oh, no, you're doing great. This is awesome.
It's a lot of value. I'm just listening. I'm soaking it all in. It's a lot of value.
Full page of notes over here. Where'd you grow up?
Small town, Oregon. So the 14,000 people there.
Yeah.
Till
what age to what age?
A lot of people I went to high school with still live there.
What town is it? I'm from Washington State, like almost Oregon.
So Klamath Falls.
I know Klamath Falls. I'm from Eatonville. Do you know Eatonville?
You
do?
Yeah.
This is about right near my army.
That is awesome. Yeah, I have a friend that lives there now. So it's a very small town in Oregon. Town.
What'd your folks do?
My mom was she was a special ed teacher, then a teacher, then a vice principal, and then a superintendent. She worked her way up, normal job, through the city schools, and became a superintendent.
Yeah.
My dad was a home builder. He would build custom homes.
Okay.
And so what I got to learn in the 80s and 90s was there were times of thriving and times of not. But there were times when my dad's home building business was very, very successful, and it was very, very cool. And there were times when it wasn't. Early 80s, interest rates went crazy, right? And people stopped being able to build. Klamath Falls was a logging town, and they made the spotted owl. This is so funny. As a kid, I remember they made the spotted owl a endangered species, and so it shut down all of the logging in Klamath Falls. So like 80% of the money that was going into that city evaporated. Logging was no longer allowed, and so my dad went from building houses to going door to door selling fireplaces. Like when I think about when I was like, I got to be an Uber driver now, right? It reminded me of like when my dad was selling fireplaces door to door.
What descriptive words, a couple of bullet points, would you use to describe your time in your household growing up?
Man, some years we were incredibly poor, and some years we were incredibly thriving. And I don't really know how to describe it. Like what was it like growing up there? Like small town didn't really prepare me for what life was going to be like. But I know that I just learned a lot from my parents, and like where I grew up definitely like shaped a lot of who I was.
Yeah, let's dive into a couple of the principles that you remember today from them.
Yeah, so the best story of principle of what happened was during the summer when it was awesome and all the other kids were out playing.
Yeah.
You know, my dad had me go weed eat essentially the hillside. He's like, but I'm going to pay you. And I'm like, but it doesn't matter. I don't want the money. I don't want to work. I don't want to do that. I want to be playing with my friends. He's like, no, essentially like he needed somebody to do it. I had to do it. And then we'd get snow days. So if we don't get snow days out. Well, I guess we do now.
I'm from New York. I know. Snow days.
Yeah. But you know, you're 10 years old and you see the snow starting and you're like, oh man, I hope we get so much snow. We don't have to go to school tomorrow. You listen on the radio, snow day, school's canceled day. Yes. Everybody's getting their snowsuits on. Everybody in the neighborhood, they're sledding, they're snowboarding, they're playing, they're building stuff. And my dad says, no, you don't get to. I need you to get on the roof and shovel all the snow off the roof first so our roofs don't cave in. So I'm shoveling snow off the roof while all the other kids in the neighborhood are playing, and my siblings, frankly. My siblings are out playing and sledding, and everybody else is. And
how many siblings?
3. So
all younger.
No. So
they all got to go have fun.
I tell you what, I was really resentful when I was younger, and I couldn't be more grateful now. Because I don't know why I was picked as the one that had to do it. I don't know why I was picked as the one that had to do the work.
What did that do to you, knowing that you were the one that was picked?
I was angry about it. Like I didn't appreciate it and know about it until I didn't actually get the benefit of it until I was in my 20s. Right. So essentially when the housing market crashed and I went from like the home builder I was working for was now out of business and I had to try something new. And like learning that like sometimes it's just good old fashioned hard work all the time and having like really, really strong work ethic of going like, yeah, I can go do this thing for the next 16 hours straight every day in a row if I have to. And buying foreclosures was like that. It was driving houses 6 or 8 hours a day and knocking on doors, and then going back and comping and doing title and then showing up for auction in the morning. And as soon as auction was over, driving again. Like it was a grind. And so he taught me, I guess the lesson was like, you wanted to make sure that I knew how to work hard. And I knew how to work hard even when I didn't want to.
So you're growing up and you're starting to realize that you were the chosen one for better or for worse.
Yeah.
Usually when you get in the adolescent phase, teenage years, you might tend to act out when you're frustrated like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're smirking.
Tell
us more about that.
This story gets really fun, man. I'll just jump. So the funnest part I tell people when they're like, hey, do you want to go shoot some guns? I go, I can't. I'm a felon. And they go, what? I go, oh yeah, no. When I was younger, I spent a couple years in prison, and so I'm not allowed to own a gun. And they're like, are you kidding me? And when I pull out those pictures and share them with people, they're like, what the heck happened? I was I had a bit of chip on my shoulder when I was in high school. Though I had
high school.
It's a great grades in high school. So
pressure was up.
I was 4.0 student all the time.
Yeah.
As a wrestler,
you knew how to work.
I had to work. I knew how to work. I had to get good grades. So I was a wrestler. I was a golfer. Got great grades. Really high expectations of so much of the stuff I was doing. And then near like maybe junior, senior year, I started to get the reaction that like, when you're younger and you're good at school, people are like, you're cool. If you're the one that got 100% on the test when you're like 10, people are like, oh, I want to get 100% on the test. When you're the guy gets 100% on the test when you're 17, everyone's like, who is this loser? You're just a nerd. You're like whatever. It's like, oh, it must be nice, whatever else. And those are also the years that my dad had become really successful, right? I mean, the first time I got to go to Hawaii, I was like 16, right? First time my kids went, like all of them went by the time they were 1. So like the life has changed. So people gave me a hard time. I felt like an outcast. And then, so I started getting into like, into drugs, and then really into pot. But this whole concept too of then as soon as I started smoking pot, I was like, wait, I could buy an ounce for this much and I could sell an eighth for this much. And so instantly turned into like business. And then started, selling weed and things like that. And the first reaction I got at a party when somebody was like, wait, Aaron, you're the one that has this? Because I was the goody two shoes kid they were making fun of all the time. I loved that reaction.
The edge.
I loved it. I loved them going like, oh, I never would have thought this about you. Like that's a defect. Like I acknowledge it's a defect 100%, right? But it was like, but I loved the reaction that I would get when people were like, oh, you're not just a straight and narrow guy. Like you also do something else.
You were playing with darkness at that point in your life. Has anything happened before that? Or was that a main?
It was just gradual into that.
Gradual, okay.
You grow up, you start to experience some different things. You have, if you struggle, like small town too, like it's just, if you struggle making friends and things like that, like there was plenty of people that I was going to high school that I like grew up with the whole time. But I wasn't the most, I didn't fit in the best of stuff. Now, the funny thing is if you ask other people, they're like, no, when I thought you were a super fiber. We never would have known you'd have felt like that. There's plenty of people out there right now that you probably, like the younger people that you probably think have it all together.
Yeah.
But they definitely don't feel like they have it all together and they're feeling alone and lost or in the social media world, and not even younger people. I know there's a lot of people that so people thought I had it all together and I didn't. Then I started hanging out with just more and more crowds like that. I would love the reaction that people would give me when they're like, oh, you don't just get a 4.0, you also party a lot and do this and this. My long story, short prison story was, living lifestyle at the time I was going to college, University of Oregon. I was an Oregon duck up there.
Good deal.
Yeah, I was 4.0 student, but I was still selling drugs, getting into drugs, like partying too much. And a buddy of mine owed me money, and I kept giving him a hard time about it. And one night at a party in front of people, and the next day he goes, here's how I'm gonna get your money back. We're gonna go. I've got a plan. I'm gonna go rob this bank. I need you to drive me there, and I'm gonna do this. And most people would say like, that's crazy. Like, let's not. And but the long story short, it really ended up being a game of chicken, meaning he's waiting for me to say. So that day when we're driving there, he's waiting for me to say, dude, you don't have to do this. Like, let's just go back and smoke some weed again and you don't have to do this. And I'm waiting for him to say, I'm not going to do this. I'm checking out because in my mind, if I tell him it's okay, then I'm not going to keep giving him a hard time anymore about everything else. And I'm thinking, well, if he just chickens out, then I get to keep giving him a hard time, right? It's like, see, so anyway, neither of us think it's going to happen, but neither of us is willing to say like, hey, this is a bad idea. This is a game of chicken. And I remember when he got in my car afterward, and he came in and he had some cash, and I remember thinking, I go, wait, you did it? And he's like, drive. And so so stupid mistake, stupid young kid, so being from a, small white kid and from small town, Southern Oregon, getting moved to a federal prison in Southern California was a wide awakening. But that's the ultimate. So all the lessons of like, how have I become successful, like work ethic or things like that, man, when you lose 2 years of like your prime life, like 21 to 23 years old, but you also feel like you had, like, I was still a good student. I was smart. Like I had a bunch of potential, essentially, that I blew it. I had a chip on my shoulder, and I knew that I had to make up for lost time. So when I got out of 23, I'm like, I gotta make up for lost time. I lost 2 years of my life. Like, it's go time. Like I can't lose any more time. And that was part of why I've worked so hard at everything, I guess.
And removing a chip off your shoulder like that doesn't happen overnight. So how did you proactively heal from that, or take it off, so to speak?
It doesn't heal overnight. Like, stuff happens with time. I don't really remember like moments when it happened. I remember certain moments of like maybe like mid-20s of like thinking like, man, I really appreciate the way my dad parented me. Like having this moment where I knew I was succeeding when others were struggling. And I knew it was based on lessons that I learned when I was shoveling snow when I was 10 and resentful about it. And remember going like, oh, I think as people get old, I think most people when they're younger think their parents are not great parents. And then most people, as they get older and they become parents, they start to really appreciate and go like, oh, they were doing the best they could. Or like when the lesson worked itself out. So I think, by the time I was like mid-20s, I started to realize like, oh, some of the things that I was like really resentful about, with a chip on the shoulder. And then the part about like being popular or not, or accepted or not, like like when you get in trouble, the friends that you think are your friends don't necessarily show up, or the people that do. Like there was an automatic filter really quickly because there were some people that said, Aaron, we're here for you, and some people that didn't. So there's a really quick filter of people I wanted to be able to keep in my life when I reset. But I also got the other benefit of all that was I got this fresh start because now I'm 23 years old. Now I'm going to Cal Poly. I'm schooling in Southern California where nobody knows me. Nobody knows any part of my story. And I get to start fresh and be who I want to be. And all I know is that like I'm a good student and I'm not like the other kids that are just trying to get a grade. Like I'm here for my future.
Yeah.
So I got a couple fresh starts, and that helped remove the chip because then I got to be whoever I wanted to be. Most of the time you don't get a fresh start. Like people like leaving their town. Like a lot of people can do it now, like leave cities and things like that. But even with social media, it's tough to get a clean break for everything.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
But it was a time when I got a total clean break.
Since then, the day you got released from prison, have you almost tripped up a little bit?
No. Not when it comes to that stuff, right? Dude, I haven't even drank a drop of alcohol since then.
Yeah.
Right. So it's been over 20 years. You know,
it's good.
Yeah. So like
support that.
That was like, no. So that part was easy. I think it really helped to have, and even when I've like had some ups and downs since then, right, from like business and things like that, I think it just really helped to get that fresh start of going, man, like there's some bottoms that people don't want to go back to. So, and then getting some pretty quick success afterward, I guess, right? Like then getting into school and then being great and then winning these national championships with that stuff and then getting hired at the height of the housing boom, even though that was short-lived before it crashed. I really got some validation of okay, this new everything works. But that was always in there. I remember a counselor telling me like, Aaron, you have to be the best at you always have this thing where you have to be the best at everything. He goes, so when you were in school, you were an A student, and when you were an athlete, you were this. And he's like, but when you were, doing drugs or being a drug dealer, same thing. You had to be the best at everything. So you took everything to these whole different levels. So Aaron, just in your person, if you can take your personality and just turn the volume down to like 95. He goes, your biggest weakness is like you have this chip on your shoulder that you have to be the best at everything. But if you can turn that volume down to 95, then that'll be your biggest strength.
Where's that come from?
I don't know if he had told it to other people or not before, but that was just something that he told me that day.
Where does your desire to be?
Oh,
like
my brain's just broken a little bit different than other people's. I think entrepreneurs are built different. My brain gets pretty scattered with the way that it works. I have met people that don't want to be an entrepreneur at all, that they want stability. They want to have a job and they want to get paid well. They want to make sure they're getting paid next month and they have their plan and their stuff. And I love them. But I've met people, they have no interest. I remember talking to a buddy, he goes, I'm telling him about my ups and downs and the stuff. And he goes, I think you have a much higher tolerance to risk than I do, Aaron. But here's how crazy the brain is. So I think entrepreneurs have something built different where the rise of the up and down,
the ride
is like, it's fun. Exciting. Yeah. Like the way down is as fun as the way up. It's weird. So yeah, I think it's just the way. I don't think something happened to me that made me like that. I think my brain is like that. But I also think that most entrepreneurs, it's like a fine line between like probably bipolar and like entrepreneur.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Something I'll add that I noticed in myself, and I'm actually working on a PhD in clinical psychology, so I get to kind of combine entrepreneurship with psychology and all these fascinating things. And this is something that I have accepted in myself, is there seems to be an infinite amount of inadequacy within myself. Like it's never fully good enough. Mm-hmm. And that's what drives me. It's what makes me keep going and wanting more houses and wanting to keep being better and better and better. And I think it's a powerful component of our experience that we can tap into, of that infinite nature. But it can sometimes leave a little bit of, what's the right word? I guess, feeling dissatisfied with ourselves in the present moment. Mm-hmm. So I guess, I don't know if you experienced that, but that's something that I noticed in myself. And I've seen kind of in others in the entrepreneurial space and just high achievers in general. It seems to be something that is there. Do you resonate with that? Or do you think that's something that you've seen as well?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And I think that's fascinating. You get to do psychological studies too. Yeah. Because when you think about like Elon Musk is a great example of that, right? Of just how, and when people talk about like the way they meet him and when they meet him and talk to him and just how he does everything, like, and sleep on the floor at the place for a while, and they'll talk about him getting like manic, and like if you look at old interviews of him, there's times when he is on and he's a performer, and there's times when he's crazy and angry, and like you just never know what side of him you're going to get. And you go, how can somebody that successful, people like articles will say like, but they can't like control himself, right? Like when he smokes weed on Joe Rogan, people are like, what the heck's he doing, right? But it's just like who he is, you know. But it's part of like he has the same sickness that we do. But I think the inadequacy drive, like I think that's part of what drives, and I think the something weird in the body that wants like stimulation.
I definitely agree with that as well.
Like people that have ADD, they'll say, you know, their brain can't tell the difference between good attention or bad attention.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting yelled at, like if a kid will act out with ADD, if you're praising them or you're yelling at them, the brain gets satisfied the same way.
Really?
Emotions are different, but the brain gets satisfied the same way because it just wants attention. It doesn't care what kind of attention.
That makes sense.
And I think that my entrepreneur brain is similar.
Interesting.
My Aunt Terry always used to ask me, are you looking for good attention or bad attention? I never answered.
Right.
But yeah.
Because that's why you're an entrepreneur.
So other than spending quality time with your family, what else do you do to, say, reward yourself or just be present and enjoy the finer things of life?
I like to do all sorts of things. So my dad died at 64 and he hadn't retired yet. And I remember like sitting with him on his deathbed that week and just kind of being so sad. And he had all these things that he wanted to do, and he thought he had beat cancer, and then he didn't. And he had like a whole list of stuff he wanted to do. And I remember coming out of that and going like, oh my God, life is short. And I had just started to become successful again. So I knew that money could be temporary. It's like money comes and goes. But I had this experience of like, the only thing I didn't regret when the times I was wealthy was the experiences we did.
That's right.
I regretted the cars. I regretted the sunglasses. I regretted things that I bought, but I didn't regret the experiences. And then Dad passed away. And I remember going like, wow. So, I mean, the next year we pulled our kids out of school and started traveling the world with them. We wrote a book called The 5-Hour School Week. We started like teaching them on the road because we're like, life is short. There's all these places we want to go someday. Let's go now. Let's start going now. So we spent the next couple of years just traveling all the time. So I like to travel. So it's one of the fun things to do, go experience things. I like to do things where people are like, hey, this is on your bucket list. Like I have a bucket list to do this someday, do this, like hike Machu Picchu, go to Croatia, things like that. I'm like, so what you should do like 3 or 4 huge things every year and try to do something every month. I do Ironman races. Nice. I love to golf. You know, last year I started to learn to surf. Now I got a boat. And so I love going like surfing on the water here. I go to Las Vegas probably once a month because I love gambling and lights and I love clubs, like which just was so funny when people also meet me in the environment that I love EDM concerts and late night and like red lights flashing and like the music that makes my body feel crazy, and people are like, how can you do this if you don't drink? It's like, because I get much stimulus from the rest of this stuff.
The energy in the room is enough.
So there's no shortage of things that I do for fun, man. And then every year I try to do something that's like a challenge too. Like I have like a cryotherapy chamber at my house. So I do cryotherapy almost every day. I do sauna almost every day. Like I do want to live forever.
Yeah.
I've got the golf simulator at the house. So I believe that you should work hard, but you should also play hard because you could lose the money at any time. And it could be within your control or it could be outside of your control. But I think that you want to do the experiences and play. I will go to events all the time, but I will only do front row. So I'll go to UFC front row. I go to a lot of UFC fights.
Why is that? I've
got season tickets at San Antonio Spurs. So I'm front row, the best seats in the house there. Yeah. Even though they're not great until this year. So there's a story. A buddy of mine used to have a thing called the Front Row Foundation. I think it doesn't exist anymore, but he was telling a story. You probably know. Do you know John? John Vroman. He's an Austin guy. So I
got to meet him.
Yeah. So he's a great dude. So he was telling a story of, he was at a concert and he bought like the $80 ticket that's in the row near the top.
Yeah.
But he's having a great time. He's dancing, he's singing, and he's having a great time. And he looks down at these gals that are in the front row on the barricade, and they're screaming and dancing and like throwing stuff back and forth with the guy. And he's like, I'm having an amazing time at this place. Yeah. Best time he could ever imagine. He goes, but they are having an amazing, amazing time.
Yes.
So like if you go to an event, the people sitting in the front row are having a different experience than the people sitting in the back row as you're interacting with the speaker. So that mantra became like front row everything. So whatever you're going to do, you should be in the front row. Like if you're going to go to a concert, it should be front row. If you're going to go to UFC, it should be front row. The rest of the stuff's going to be great, but there's nothing greater than that. Like you're going to have the best experience you could possibly have as you do it. And then his foundation had turned into a thing that it was like, if people were denied for Make-A-Wish, his program would help, essentially those kids get something.
That's awesome.
So it would be it would be focused on front row events somewhere. Yeah,
that's cool.
So so I do a lot of stuff for fun, but front row is when he said that hit me like a ton of bricks. And then I started going to events different. I started trying that. Like, hey, what's the front row experience? I remember my first UFC front row experience where I'm next to like one of the fighters' girlfriends or something. And this guy comes off the stage after, knocking somebody out, and he's covered in blood. And he comes and he's like hugging her, and we're getting like blood and sweat on us, and hearing the conversations and seeing like him tearing up and them tearing up. And I'm like right here. And it was like, I was a huge part of one of the biggest moments of his life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
And you're here. So
nice job.
So I do lots of different things for fun. I like to do sports and activities and meet people and go do social stuff. But like, I think anything that you do, you should try to have it be, just don't have it be average.
Go all out.
Go all out.
Yeah. Let's say you were to have a conversation with that kid growing up in the household in Oregon. What would you say to yourself?
Oh man, I think my dad was trying to tell me like, hey, you'll thank me later for this. And none of that would have really, if it was me in time, so I would trust myself, I would say like, you're going to appreciate this later. But I think the most important part is like, it's probably like telling kids, like most of what happens when you're a kid won't actually matter later. Like people aren't going to, especially like the unpopular part, like the getting picked on, like the am I wearing the right shirt? Am I wearing this stuff? Like, one of my daughters is really good at saying like when she has a bad day or gets in trouble or something else. So she'll say like, a month from now, I won't even be thinking about this. Or sometimes it's a year from now, I won't be thinking about this. So it would be trying to get the young me to really understand like the stuff that I think is really, really important then isn't, because I spent a lot of time probably like being stressed and being like insecure and essentially just having a rough go because of thinking that like some stuff was super, super important. And then you realize later, like, no, like, doesn't matter.
Yeah. And what kind of message, let's say it's 120 years from now, you'll still be alive. Let's say it is.
That's on my bucket list.
Yeah. What kind of message do you want to leave ultimately with the world? What's your why?
Before we started recording, I said something about the fact like, that I want to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
Right. And people go like, you get a bunch of weird reactions when you say that. Right. Because some people are like, why? Right. Or like, some people say like, must be nice. Or some people say why. Or some people say that's a stupid goal.
Really?
Or something to have.
Yeah. In this room.
And some people think it's great. But I think the reality is if you really want to change the world, you need to have influence. And influence costs money. Essentially.
Right.
So like, do I know what message that I want to be teaching? I know there's all sorts of things that happen that I go, this is unfair, or this isn't right. Or like, there's all sorts of things that happen that we go like, wow, like, this is the game board is set up. We don't like the rules. I've learned how to play within the rules and do really well at the game. But like but there's plenty of rules that happen. I'm like, I wish I could change those rules. So, my big thing is it's a lot of people say it though, like the message today would still be the same one of, life is short. Tomorrow isn't promised. So like do the thing today. Like that thing, like everybody's got a thing of I'm going to do this someday. Like people listening today, like there's like, man, I really want to be able to go do that. And if it's one of those things that you've thought about so much, imagine if you never get to do it.
Right.
Imagine if you were going to see one of the churches in Paris that burnt down last year. Right. Imagine if you were going to go to like there's an old city in Maui that's gone now that burnt down last year in Lahaina.
Yeah.
Right. Like imagine if there was something there. So stuff goes away. Like we hiked Machu Picchu Trail in Peru, and then it was like got shut down for a while the next year. We didn't know if it was going to reopen after, or when COVID hit, and all of a sudden you couldn't travel to all sorts of places. So, yeah, tomorrow isn't promised. You could get cancer, you could get hit by a car, you could go broke. So like do the thing today. And you'll never regret spending time and money on experiences over things.
Well said. Wow. This has been a fired up podcast, to say the least.
It's been fun to chat with you guys. I love this stuff.
Yeah,
I'd love to get
wonderful.
more about the business stuff you guys are doing and the houses you're flipping and investing in and all that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It means a lot. Seriously. I know you got a lot of kids, and you took time away from your family today to be with us. Thanks for sharing your message. How can people get a hold of you?
The most fun way, thank you for letting me come on again and getting to chat and reaching out. I was glad I got to meet you a couple weeks ago at a mixer out here. That's some of the most fun things I like being able to do.
Yeah.
Instagram is my favorite place, for people to come find me and talk to me. And it's at Aaron Amuchastegui. The cool thing about having a unique name and actually growing a little bit there, if people type in Aaron AMU, it'll find me in everybody's phone. So so you don't have to learn how to spell Amuchastegui. You just have to be able to spell Aaron AMU, and it'll find the rest. I host the Real Estate Rockstars podcast and the King's Table podcast. But dude, I message people back and forth on Instagram all the time.
Yeah.
So if you're not on Instagram, Facebook works. And if you're not in any of those, like you go to PropHawk.com. There's a little chat box on the right corner that goes to the guy that has a desk next to me.
Oh, cool.
So you can say, I heard Aaron on this podcast, and I want to ask him about his foreclosure book, or I want to ask him about his homeschooling, or any of the million things we didn't get to talk about today.
Yeah.
The people can find me.
Dang. Awesome. That's cool. Well, folks, you heard it here first. Greg Carlson, Pivotal Moments podcast. Till next time, stay fired up.